Hello, Yinzer. My name is Abraham Klein, and today I'm here with Dr. Carolyn Princess, and we're going to be talking a little bit about this year's annual Juneteenth, virtual celebration that they held recently here up in Indiana County. And to watch the full video, you'll have to go on to idiotradio.net or check out the Yinzer Club Facebook page. But with all that said, Dr. Princess, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So, tell us a little bit about this year's Juneteenth celebration. What all took place?
Well, given the it was different this year, of course, given the COVID-19 pandemic. We went virtual, and what that means is our Juneteenth program was virtual, and we had a virtual cookout for social change, and that was done in commemoration of Juneteenth 2020. So that means everybody connected in by Zoom, which was really neat. We had our traditional program. Our theme was racial change is possible and it's coming. So we had a guest speaker. We had music. We had a band from DC. We had a special DJ out of Chicago. And we had our Indiana Community Choir and our Young Brothers Kwaitando. So we had our same, setup. Our lineup was basically the same. We had our guest speakers, but I really liked it this time because it was, believe it or not, more interactive than it was when we have it in person. And the interaction came because people were able to give their comments about eradicating racism, promoting social change, and how they see it's possible and how they know it's coming. So people were able to give their comments, and at the same time, they were having their own cookout in their own backyard, their own home, their own kitchen, their own living room, whichever way they wanted to. So it was really a great experience, and that's how we did it this year. A virtual cookout. This was our first time doing it. Everything, I've had to adapt to new way of presenting things. And so as opposed to not doing it at all, we said, let's figure out how we can do this virtually. And it worked out wonderful.
Yeah. Now, obviously, like you said, it was due to everything that's been going on with COVID-19. Now, up to this point, it's been out for a while. I know a lot of events were sort of caught off guard with it and having to try to make quick changes. Did you guys feel like did you feel like this was going to happen where you would have to make up changes, or was there the possibility you thought maybe we'd be at, maybe a closer phase where you could have more people and interact better, or was this something you guys were set on from the beginning?
No, we started out when this started happening back in January, when we knew more about what was going on. We decided then that we had to figure out a new way of operating. So like our regular NAACP meetings, we have been doing them virtually via Zoom since March, the middle of March. We have a program to encourage girls to go into the science and technology areas. And we've been meeting regularly with that program, and that's an in-person program.
Right.
So it's called Project Guesting. So we had to figure out, we can't stop. We can't just let this stop us. So we had to figure out how to do it from our own perspective places. So, our own respective places. So that's what we were doing. And that's when I started looking at, let's see, guys, what are we doing with the executive committee? See what the NAACP is doing, and how do we continue? Because we cannot just stop, and we didn't. So we continued to move forward via Zoom with a lot of things we did. In the end of May, the girls were working on a beaded bracelet project to donate to the IRMC, the Indiana Hospital here. to show appreciation, that they saw appreciation for the work they do as healthcare professional. And that's probably the only time we met in person. It was about 8 or 10 of us.
Mm-hmm.
We made the bracelets in our own home. And the girls did, and they brought them to me and dropped them off on my front porch, put them in a box, and then we got together and actually physically made the presentation to the healthcare people at Indiana Regional Hospital. So we've been working on this for a while now.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's still a learning process.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of that, was there the possibility, like, did you guys have any like technical difficulties? I've talked to some organizations, and for the most part, most have said there's probably some hiccups here and there. What was the experience like for you guys?
Well, for our Juneteenth program, I would say we had one near major technicality, because you were afraid that the lights was going to go out, the electricity and all that kind of stuff. So that didn't happen. Right. Our guest speaker was speaking in the middle of it. We lost him.
Oh, wow.
But what is this? But he knew how to connect via his phone back in. So we were able to continue the conversation. There were some other minor issues, but I've learned they were more from the people who presented them than it was from us. Like we tried to do the band video. We saw them, but we didn't hear them. I could hear them, but the people on Zoom couldn't. And so we figured all that stuff out. So there were some technical difficulties, issues, but they weren't major.
Right.
So we more or less solved it, and the feedback has been wonderful. I mean, absolutely wonderful. So I think I can say mission accomplished. We know better every time we work on Zoom. We're learning more and more.
Yeah, that's good.
Even like this, I didn't know I was able to get on here. I didn't know what it was or anything.
Yeah.
And so just like your friend was telling me how to connect, so people working in different areas knew what to do. Right. And I had, we had Zoom monitors. We had all kinds of stuff. It was just amazing.
Yeah. So getting back to the actual Juneteenth celebration, you mentioned about there being a guest speaker. Who was the guest speaker, and what was their basic idea of what they talked about?
The guest speaker was, I call him Reverend Dr. Melvin Jenka. He's a professor at IUP.
Oh, okay.
And he spoke to the topic of racial change is possible, and how we can go about doing that, and his experiences. So it was a wonderful presentation of how we can go about racial change. And we talked about this before, how I felt that racial attitude change were coming, given the new generation of folks that are coming about. And his thing was, it's possible. He don't know about it's coming. So we got together and put them together. So he was convinced that it's not only possible, but it's coming. And it starts from within your own heart, and your own attitude changes.
Yeah. All right.
Toward racial differences.
Yeah. And so this event, is it put on by the NAACP, the local chapter of the NAACP, or are there other organizations involved?
Well, the program is put on by Indiana County NAACP, but like most events, we get sponsors of different portions of the program. So we had several people to present ads. Okay. We had people who made donations. We had, a committee about 7 or 8 people to help put it on. So we do have people who help us do that. Yeah. I had to communicate with a technical person. So it was like a collaborative of different folks helping to put this together. Yeah. I just conceived of the idea, and my question was, how do I make this happen in this new platform? Yeah, that was the question. The major question is, how do you put this together in a new platform? One thing I did learn, though, doing this via Zoom or this technology, it was a cookout, and it was designed to be a cookout in their own place. But I was going to do one too. So I had all my food prepared, and I wanted to cook out on the grill, and I found out I can't do them both. Can't do them both at the same time when you're on here. Not like when you're in person. You can run back and forth. Couldn't do that.
Yeah. So, real quick, just for those who may be unfamiliar with Juneteenth and what it is about, can you explain to the audience like what Juneteenth necessarily is?
Sure. That's probably easy to do. So Juneteenth is also called Emancipation Day. Okay. It's called Freedom Day, and it's called Independence Day. And overall, it's the day when slavery ended in the United States. Slavery continued after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation document, which ended slavery in the country, but it continued until June 19, 1865, when in the Houston, Texas area, called a little place called Beaumont, Texas. Okay. And the slaves there, and there was about 250,000 of them from 1863 to 1865. They were still enslaved. Yeah. And they did not get the word that slavery, well, I don't know if they got the word or not, but that's what the writings say, that slavery was ended until June of 19th of 1865. And when they got that message, that was a day of liberation for them. And so celebration went on. And after that, in 1866, the following year, they had a big celebration, and they bought some acres, like I think it was 10 acres or something over there, and they named a park and called it Emancipation Day. So ever since 1866, that part of the country has been having Juneteenth celebration to celebrate their freedom. Mm-hmm. There's, some programs goes on with it, like cookouts, and red soda is a characteristic of it, to demonstrate their resiliency, their ability to continue even after this. But I think it's important for all of us to celebrate, because you have to remember that when President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, his concern was more with saving the Union. Right. His goal was not to abolish slavery. That was not his goal. Right. And he wanted to make sure that happened at the end of the Civil War. Right. And so it was at that time when slavery truly ended in the entire country, by Texas being the last state in the Union to officially end slavery. And so it's a celebration time of not only the Black people, mostly Black people, but it's a end of slavery in the country. So that's almost like, that is true Independence Day of ending slavery in the country. And if you think about it, when America broke away from the British in 1776, mm-hmm. and you got to remember, from 1776 to 1863, Black people were not considered free. Mm-hmm. Enslaved people were not considered free. So there was no freedom of all people in the country. So, and that's why Juneteenth is so important, because that is a day when, by proclamation, signing by our president, that all people in the country was to be free. And that happened on June 19th in 1865. Yeah. So while we celebrate the 4th of July, you have to remember, during that period, there was still a bunch of people enslaved in this country. Right. So that's why. That's what it is, and it's continued for over 100 years, maybe 155 years now. Yeah, something like that. And it's celebrated in The last I heard was 47 states. There's only 3 who have not officially recognized it. And our governor in Pennsylvania declared it a holiday on May. I think it was May 21st or June, sometime this year, like in the last month.
Yeah. Actually, speaking, I was about to ask, there is talk of, I know, like you mentioned, our governor in Pennsylvania, and there's also talk of possibly making it a national holiday. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you're going to ask me. I think it should be a national holiday. It is a celebration of the country where all people are to be free.
Mm-hmm.
And that ended the official enslavement of people. So that is a Independence Day for us, and I think it should be a national holiday. However, this year has been different.
Yeah.
This year has truly been different. While I would say Black people, and particularly people in major cities, have been celebrating Juneteenth for a long time, I think this year people are more conscious and aware of what it is. So I do feel there's been more recognition and commemoration of Juneteenth. The difficulty I had this year was that Juneteenth should be a celebration.
Mm-hmm.
But while we were dealing with the racial unrest, the inequality issues, police violence, all that stuff, I go, should we even have a Juneteenth celebration this year?
Okay.
You know, because what are we really celebrating? We're still at a point where we're not recognizing the equity, equality of all people. And I go, well, that's what Juneteenth is also designed to do, to help us think about how do we move our country forward? What are we celebrating? We're celebrating the past. We're trying to move forward to the future. And we can't forget the past because we will probably we could repeat it again.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a celebration of people, and that's what we tried to do through our virtual Juneteenth, getting messages from folks to see how they feel. They can end attitudes of racism, superiority, and that. And for that reason, we also had a contest. We had a poster display contest. Thoughts for erasing racism, eradicating racism. So we had that contest as well.
Okay. If people would like,
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. If people would like to learn more about the local chapter here in Indiana County of the NAACP, or if they'd like to learn more about possibly educating themselves on, I guess, the racial issues or Juneteenth, what's the best way they can do that?
Well, to learn more about the NAACP, the Indiana County, two-way, Indiana County NAACP, you can just go to our Facebook page, Indiana County NAACP, and you'll see a lot of what we're doing, our calendar, and some snippets of what we've been doing. You'll see how to join. There's our membership application. You can download it, complete it, and fill it out and send to us with the membership fee, which is only $30, and become a member. Or you can go to the national NAACP page, which is naacp.org. Hit on that, put in our area code, and we'll come right up.
Okay.
And you can instantly become a member. You become a member the day you submit your application and your membership fee. You can also email us at indiana.county.naacp@gmail for an application or for information about what's going on, that kind of thing. You can do that too.
Okay. All right. This portion of the interview, we're going to end it right there. For those of you who would like to go watch the rest of this, you'll have to go on to idiotradio.net and look up Yinzer Club, or go onto the Yinzer Club page. This has been Abraham Klein for Yinzer Magazine, saying Yins have a great day. Okay. So now let's move on to the second half here. And now we're going to try to get to know a little bit about you as an individual. So, big question here: who is Dr. Carolyn Princess?
Who am I? I'm just a human being.
Okay.
Who happens to deal with issues of helping people reach their potential, facilitating social justice, and getting all people educated, particularly people of color. Mm-hmm. So my background includes having worked in the social justice work for nearly 30 years. I got my undergraduate degree and my master's degree in education and psychology from the University of Illinois, mm-hmm. Champaign. And I got my doctorate in education with a focus on developing curricula and instructing from the University of Maryland.
Okay.
So that's who I am.
Okay. And where are you originally from? Are you from the Indiana County area, or did you, I guess you could say, I don't want to use the great word migrate here, but come from another part of the country?
Prior to being in Indiana, I was in Frostburg, Maryland, for about 10 years, working at the university there. And I went there after getting my master's degree. I worked as a paralegal and at the top 5 corporation, Chicago Title Real Estate and Trust Company, doing real estate title examining, and move up through all different manager kinds of levels. So I did that. And then I got my master's and I moved out to Frostburg. I am from Chicago.
Okay.
So I migrated from Chicago to Frostburg. And then from Frostburg, I came to Indiana, and that's where I've been for the last couple of years. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you found home here in Indiana County, huh?
Basically, this is my home now. This
good.
Is where I am. And I'm here. I just, try to help, to make social equity better for all of us.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, that's what you've been working in for many years. Is that something that you have been passionate about from pretty much your whole career, or is that something that sort of developed over time?
No, I would say it's been there. I started out as a psychology major. When I went out to school, when I started out in college, I knew I wanted to be in a field where I can learn how to describe human behavior. I wanted to understand human behavior. I wanted to describe it, and I wanted to predict it. So that's how I got started. And by having that interest, it got me into the different areas that I'm working in now. I was director of the African American Culture Center at IUP for almost 27 years until it closed. So this is what I've been doing. Before that, I was working with low-income, first-generation, physically challenged students, trying to educate our students to get them through, to stay in college and to graduate, and then seeing them start their careers.
Okay.
So that's where I've been.
Yeah, that's where you've been. So quite the resume.
It came from my own background, my own interest from just growing up. I've always, I think I've been supportive throughout my life.
Yeah. Starting
with my family, my school system. I had so many mentors when I was in school. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And so, speaking of that, tell us a little about your life growing up, what it was like for you, I guess, growing up in Chicago, right?
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what was that like for you?
Well, for me, it was fine. I went to an inner city high school. Mm-hmm. I felt that I lived in a community. When I grew up, everybody was your parents, So there was community raising, like a village. My father passed when I was a young child.
Mm.
So my mother took care of me and my 8 sisters and brothers.
Oh, wow.
So,
Quite the family.
and we never wanted for anything.
Hmm.
There was always help. Number one, the community help. We were all family. And I don't know anything other than helping others, helping each other. That's all I know. My
Yeah.
high school, the best. I was number one in high school of 500 graduates.
Nice.
There were 2,500 students in my high school. So some of this stuff that I know since I've been out here as a professional,
Mm-hmm.
I actually learned it more so when I moved in Indiana, not even in Frostburg.
Mm-hmm.
The social unrest, this racist stuff, behavior. I didn't know that. So that's been hard to overcome.
Yeah.
But I have. I'm a teacher first, an educator first. So that's what I go out and do.
Yeah. So actually, another local Indiana guy. Obviously, he's a transplant from, I believe, Washington D.C. Anthony Frazier.
Oh, Anthony.
Yeah, yeah. I actually did an interview with him several months ago now, in which he actually went to a local Klan meeting, and like sort of not as a member. I don't know if they'd take him, but but he actually went to sort of just sort of see what they're about and see if he could try to be a positive influence to maybe try to get people out of that. I actually, growing up, I didn't even know there was ever such a problem of the Klan in my area. And here I'm finding out that, oh yeah, used to be a few chapters around here. So like, did you experience anything like that, or were you here after that was going on?
No, I've seen some things happen since I've been here, but I have to remember that this was new for me too.
Yeah.
When I arrived in Indiana,
Mm-hmm.
of course, my students greeted me and gave me a warm welcome. But the first thing I heard when I was walking up the stairs to my office was on the second floor in a house that we had, faculty warning me about the Klan. I had no idea. They just said, be careful. I hear a word, and they said, they're 15 minutes down the road. And I said, where? Down that little town right down the road. I said, oh my God, what did I do? Because when I came here, I came because of a friend, and I saw it as a welcoming environment for me. My grandparents are from Little Rock, Arkansas, so I visit there many times too. So I saw it as a combination between growing up in the city and having family background in the rural South, in the South.
Yeah.
They weren't rural. They lived in Little Rock area, so they weren't really rural. But anyway.
Right, yeah.
So I had that.
Yeah. I said maybe compared to Chicago, right?
Compared to Chicago, it is a shock. It is a cultural shock, to be honest with you. It's a social culture shock.
Yeah.
So there were incidents that have occurred here that I didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my intellectual, educational background, my family background prepared me for dealing with it. For instance, one day I walked, I think right after I came, I could tell you a bunch of stories, but this one was, we were celebrating Martin Luther King holiday.
Yeah.
And somebody nailed a sign on the tree in front of my office. I go, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And it was very gross and disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually work late.
Yeah.
I thought nothing about it. But once I saw that, I took the note over to the vice president's office for student affairs. And I was just terrified.
Yeah.
And there's basically at that point nothing they could really do. That was like maybe, I don't know, 3 years after I was here, maybe, because we were having a Martin Luther King celebration, and it said some disgusting things.
Yeah.
You know, like I wish MLK holiday was every day so that we can get all the people together and basically kill them.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And
gross.
that was nerve-wracking for me, but I had colleagues, I had student supporters, and we knew how to handle this kind of thing.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
you know, so, and as far as educating, I teach and make presentation to students of all backgrounds, from when the 3,000 who came in at orientation or the 2,500, however many there was, talking to them about racial sensitivity, understanding differences in culture. So I did that for a number of years. So that made me happy when we saw the protests
Mhm.
after the George Floyd incident, the Ahmaud Berry, all those protests that happened, because at first it didn't seem like anybody cared, just to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So then I felt a sense of hope when I saw so many young people, young adults, mostly young adults. There were older people too, going out and protesting against injustice. So then that convinced me the work that we do, me and my colleagues, is truly, truly important.
Yeah.
Because you remember, you won't remember, but the riots, the protests, and things of the 60s that led to the passage of the civil rights, you didn't see what we see today. You've got people all over the world protesting against injustice.
Yeah.
So that means the last 30 to 40 years of our work has impacted something, has made a difference somehow. And then the young people are bringing along the older people too.
Yeah.
But we still have much longer to go.
Yeah. And I was going to ask, like, have you had that opportunity to see someone's perspective change to where, you know, maybe they were maybe they were full blown racist and ended up coming to the reality that, you know, I shouldn't be this way anymore. I should, you know, be a decent human being, I guess would be a better term for it. Have you seen that? Basically, have you seen that a lot, or I don't know, maybe not as much? You know?
I've seen that happen. I think I need to see more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just recall a young student, a senior, who was upset because we had a program to promote to honor graduating diverse students.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a white young lady, and she was concerned that why isn't there a separate program for her, for whites. But the thing that got me was she came into the office and started asking these questions. That was a plus too.
Yeah.
For her to come in the office and start asking questions. And then she had this discussion with everybody, with me facilitating with everybody. And I go, here's the application. You want to join. It was not excluding anyone. And she finally said, no, I understand.
Yeah.
I don't want to take that away from them.
Yeah.
You know, I can just show up if I want to. So people have misconceptions about what they can and cannot do. And they have misconception about African American people in particular, people of color overall.
Yeah.
And so once you change that attitude, I think that things will change. But we have to convince our political figures, our legislators, to continue the programs that we had to do that. Academic curriculum is fine, but it's what you include in them. And I'll stop talking about myself, because when I came up, there was all kind of programs for equal opportunity.
Yeah.
Just all kinds of things. They were making a difference, but then we decided that for some reason we don't want them anymore. We don't need them anymore. and we got rid of them. And we've seen that happen right here in Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
You know, closing out programs that did make a difference. And so my thing is, if it worked, you don't fix it.
Right.
You improve it. You don't destroy it.
Yeah.
So that's where I go.
Yeah. And well, as you mentioned about, you know, misconception and things like that. You know, I know people on, you know, doing a lot of interviews and stuff like that. I meet a lot of people that have different perspectives on a lot of different issues, politically and otherwise. And I've noticed it seems like for some, it's almost like not necessarily a lack of communication, but a miscommunication to where something's being said, but they're taking it as meaning something else.
That's self-serving. To me, that's self-serving. It's not miscommunication. It's not communicating. It's not listening.
Right.
It's not caring, not understanding the philosophical nature of people. We are human beings.
Right.
We are imperfect.
Yeah.
We have our own culture. We have our own personalities. But we don't understand as humans. And this is probably the religious side come in. You don't have the right to step on people. People have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. They have the right to accomplish Maslow's hierarchy of need, food, shelter, clothing, you know, health, all those things. Yeah. When you understand that as a human, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. We're supposed to respect, you know? So once you understand that, but if you have a defeatist attitude or stereotypical attitude toward groups of people, then it's not going to work.
Yeah.
But then that's for us who know better to try to help those people. But the problem has been is that if you're in college or universities, we're going to give it to you, okay?
Right.
Our public schools might do some of it, but not to the extent that we do. But then you got the whole other 40% of the people who don't even go to higher education. Mm-hmm. What happens to those people?
Yeah.
So we have to work with them too. And I guess that's why I'm proud to be the president of the Indiana NAACP.
Okay, yeah.
So I can reach out. I can reach both the higher education level students, and I can also reach the community.
Right.
That make any sense what I just said?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, because one thing I seem to see a lot of misconception is regarding the phrase Black Lives Matter. Like a lot of you know, especially white people will come back with the term All Lives Matter. And I think a lot of them don't understand what the phrase Black Lives Matter actually means. It's not a term of saying only Black Lives Matter. You know, it means Black lives also matter. You know, that they should be included in the conversation. It's not an idea of superiority, but an idea of inclusion. Does that make sense?
I think it makes sense. As a human, I don't think anybody in the world know that people's lives matter. You need to value and appreciate people's lives. I know people in other countries, they kill people and all that stuff, but people matter. Okay. Right. So and for me, it's common sense.
Right.
There's no need to say all lives matter.
Yeah.
There's no need to say blue lives matter.
Yeah.
That's common sense.
Yeah.
Okay. When you say Black Lives Matter, you look at the status of the people and what's going on with the people. Mm-hmm. And you look at that for 400 years where they are. That means they're talking about the injustice, the discrimination, and the attitude.
Right.
That you have to particularly Black people. Mm-hmm. So they're saying their lives matter because you're excluding them.
Right.
Whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
You are. And the way you know it is look at the tangible things that are happening.
Yeah, right.
So when I hear those phrases, I go, that is the most nonsensical thing that you could say.
Yeah.
Because by virtue of existing as a human being, we know that all lives matter.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you look at the Christian belief, the religious belief, you know that all lives matter. We're not animals.
Yeah, right.
You know, well, we're human animals. And so we know that lives matter. So when I hear that all lives matter, that's a distraction. That's a distraction.
Right.
From what the issues are and the avoidance of the issue.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're saying is deal with the issue.
Right.
Deal with the systemic issues that we have.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of goes back to, because I remember learning in history about during the protests back in the 1960s, there was a sign they would go around with that would say, "I am a man." And, you know, it's kind of like in that same respect. Well, it's not saying that white people aren't men. It's not saying that other groups aren't men. They're just saying, I am also a man. You know, I should be treated equally. I should have that same, equality as you. And so, you know, that's what sort of had to become something for me to realize, because,
So, I mean, for something like that, would you ever, a white person, do you say, why would you have to say, I am a man?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, what is your need for that? Whereas a black person,
yeah,
the level of living, the level of violence, just says that you don't respect me as a man as you are a man.
Right.
So that's what that means. So you're looking at it wrong, and it's from the lens of people with thoughts that are different about the people who don't look like them.
Right.
Does make any sense what I just said?
Yeah, I'd say it does.
Your lens, your way of looking at me, not you.
Yeah. Right.
But their lens, a way of looking at people is very different from being in the lens of the eye of the holder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they struggle. And no matter what they do, even getting accomplished in their education, I've seen it here too.
Mm-hmm.
That they achieve what you told me to do, but you get busted for it. You get cut out for it. Whereas I've seen others just keep moving forward. That's what we need to change. That's why I say the covert racism that exists. Now we're coming back to overt and the systematic. And for folks to say that systematic racism doesn't exist, they're absolutely out of their mind.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is review the policies, practice, and rules and procedures that go on, and it'll tell you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, actually, now that you bring that up, like, I'm someone who's what you would call sort of bi-ethnic. I'm mostly European on my dad's side, and on my mother's side, I'm Hispanic, and you know, and I obviously know a lot of other people who are biracial, where they're half white, half black. In your opinion, like, what's our role as far as like trying to speak out as a member, because I feel as though I'm obviously a part of the Hispanic community, but I don't necessarily feel like a complete member because I'm only about half that. And so what's your opinion on that?
Well, it depends on the background. What's your background? You know, where did you live? What was your culture like? What was your everyday life? That's number one. Okay.
Right.
So if you got, I have 2 biracial grandchildren. They're black and white. You know, what is their life like? The community they live within. They should be them. I tell them they should just be themselves.
Right.
They should understand. Now get back to this human nature, this human being. That's who they are.
Right. Exactly.
And what happens out there, they come home to a grandmother who's going to teach them how to just live their life. Does it matter that they are biracial in this society? Yes. But to me, those are my grandkids.
Right.
So to you, you are a human being with your own likes and dislikes, your own gender based, anything. You. How can I say it any better?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So, but you have good side. You have both two worlds. You know, you've got your Hispanic world, right?
Yeah.
And you got your white world. Is that what I understood?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you learn from both of them, and it makes you a unique person.
Right.
So you can have them both. You don't have to decide.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think you do. I know my kids don't have to decide, but
Yeah.
their families may have to decide.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't care who they are. Those are my blood. You would be my blood. And I would treat you like you were one race. But I have to remember this. Most of the people in the world are people of color anyway, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so is there a pure white race?
Yeah, not really.
Is there, and particularly in this country, just deal with the United States.
Yeah.
Is there a pure white race? Is there a pure black race?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So we're a nation of diverse people, of different multicultural background. So I don't know why that conversation goes on except for the people who perpetuate that difference. That's where the problem is.
Right. I agree.
You know, so you just be yourself and go where you want to go. I don't recall limitations on my life.
Yeah, exactly.
So that makes me a little, I don't want to say different, but I came from a household that our focus on just living day to day and being nice people.
Right.
That make any sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
And a community would open the door for anybody, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess I don't get it.
Yeah.
If I'm Hispanic, then I'll celebrate my Hispanic culture. If I'm European, I'll celebrate that. If I'm African, I'll celebrate that. That's just me. It's what I grew up in. So I'm an American.
Right.
And there's a culture that I grew up with.
Right.
You know? So
I agree. Yeah. I really enjoyed this conversation, by the way. It's been I think it's been a good conversation. I did want to close with one more question though. Again, going back to the Juneteenth celebration,
yes.
The theme of this year was, I believe, racial equality is possible. Was that what it was?
Racial change is
racial
possible
change.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, so you said that as far as you're concerned, there's optimism, and like how long do you think that it could possibly take, just considering everything that has been going on in the world lately?
I think Martin Luther King said something once. We asked him, I think they asked him how long something is going on, and he said too long.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened. And I remember talking to my colleagues, one of my former students who is also a pastor now, and he goes, "How long?" And I go, "Not long."
Okay.
It's not long. It's not long as we, the people, it's up to us to promote what we want. Because those people we elect are there to work for us.
Right.
They're supposed to listen to us. Now, that may be idealistic. But if you're doing something to make it real, then it can happen. So it took us 30 years. I'm going from my own professional experience, okay?
Yeah.
It took me 30 years to see thousands of young white adults joining forces with black protesters. It took me that long to see it in masses, okay? So will it take another 30 years? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll take another 30 years. I know it'll take a long time for us to fully recognize But as far as the changes that need to happen so that we can move along, I don't think that's going to be long.
Right.
Because you have to remember, and that's what people are having problems too. I forgot to mention that. When I was growing up, there was something called fear of a black planet.
Fear of what?
Okay.
What was it called again?
Fear of a black planet.
Oh, okay.
Fear of a black planet.
Yeah, right.
So people had fear of that. Okay. They still do today. But they have more fear because the racial landscape of our country is changing. Okay. The relationship between people of color and people are not is changing. Mm-hmm. So if you got on one hand the demographics changing, and then you got the attitudes changing, and you put them two together, then we may become one world. We may become one world, but we're not becoming one people, we're all going to have our different perspectives. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
But I think we'll change. And so that's why in my book that I wrote, my first book I wrote in 2018, it was called Reimagining Destiny. It was reflective poems of a new generation. From 10 or 15 years ago, I saw how they were changing. And with them changing their attitudes and with the makeup of the people changing, you put them together, that generation forward is going to be different. Mm-hmm. And now I think I saw a demonstration of that with the current events that are happening now. So I don't think it's going to be that long. The other thing you have to remember too, these are younger people coming up. People during my time are going to get to the point that we just want to enjoy our life. They're going to take over. Mm-hmm. They have a different attitude than this generation before. The problem is they cannot get the past either. They have to know the past and understand the past. And then they have to work with the older people to bring the generation in that we want. And it's so like what I think it's Kanye West said, we need the wisdom of the elders and the energy of the youth.
Right.
And put those two together, then we got to keep moving that pendulum in the direction that we need. And I don't know that it'll be another 30 years. I think it's going to be reduced significantly.
That's good to hear.
That makes
sense. Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. I'd like to believe that it would change soon. I mean, I think it has changed significantly, and I can only hope that it stays that way. That there's not like some sort of force that causes people to regress, because there's so much out there with different forms of media that it's easy for people to, I don't know, get lost in their own ways and not willing to change, Well,
if you look to a superior being, let me say this. If you look to a superior being, something will happen.
Right.
We cannot sustain what we've been experiencing over the last, how long it's been since Eric Brown was shot, strangled to death or choked to death? I don't remember what Eric Brown that was choked to death in New York.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't remember what year that was at this point.
Something like that. Yeah.
So
I think it was 5 years ago.
5 years ago. So we've been dealing with this on an intense level for 5 years. Do you really think we can continue that?
I hope not.
No. Let me say that. We cannot.
Right, yeah.
That person who's in control of all is going to put an end to all of this.
Yeah.
If the people don't do it themselves, something else will. And I pity if that time comes.
Yeah.
So that's one way to look at it. But the other way is that people are different in thinking and looking, and they're not going to appreciate the kinds of things we're seeing now. Do you think that we can see another George Floyd as a people,
Right.
Black people, white people? You think you can witness that again? Do you think you can witness the shooting of what is his name? Brooke guy that was just shot running away?
Okay. Yeah.
Do you think we can continue? It's too much stress on the psyche.
It is. And yeah, I mean, it can go a couple different ways, because I know when I started seeing the numbers and they started showing the amount that had been killed or racially attacked or whatnot, if you're not careful, you'll become numb to it, because you'll start to think, well, there's nothing I can do, and you start almost feeling like, well, that's just the way life is. And obviously you can't do that. You got to try to stay vigilant about it,
So do you think the people that it's happening to is going to stay numb? Do you think they're going to become numb?
No, I don't believe it's going to stay that way, because eventually something has to give.
I mean, as far as Black people, for as long as I can remember, they've been fighting back. So we did come too complacent when it seems like we were moving forward, but we were moving forward then.
Right. Yeah.
And then we just let things happen. But that was a problem. So now that we move forward, we still have to be conscious of what still needs to be done.
Right.
And so just as the hurricanes come, the weather's changing, the climate is changing. Do you think that there's some force that's higher than us that's not going to allow this to continue? Yeah.
I mean, I am a believer in God, so I believe that in time He does. He is the ultimate judge, and He takes care of business when over time. So,
well, it's not. It's God too, but it's the people themselves.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the oppressor don't change. It's the people change. You can oppress people all you want, but those are humans, and they will change. Yeah. And they will change for survival. So if we want to survive in this world together, it's like Martin Luther King said, we can survive as people or come as fools or something, and die as fools or something like that. Whatever that saying was, I don't remember it right now, but there's a quote by Martin Luther King that really fits. We can come together as people, or we can die as fools together. Yeah. And if you're so foolish as a human being that want to have something like a movie scene, then it is what it is. Yeah. 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 Oh, we can come together as fools or perish as come together as people, or die or perish as fools, or something like that. Yeah. I remember the quote. I just can't completely remember exactly how he said it. But yeah. So that's where I do think there's hope. I really do. It took a long time for us to see this. But I do think there's hope if we stop the distractions, we stop the superiority attitudes, because that's where this is coming from. Right. We stop that I'm better than you, and I own this because you don't. America is a nation of immigrants. We were built on diversity. And the last thing I have to say, it was the sweat and pain of Black Americans or Black slaves, Black Africans and Native Americans that built this country. And for you to use that so you can stay control over me, that day is coming to an end. That day is coming to an end. Yeah. So we can live together as friends or die together as fools. Yeah, absolutely. So
So anyway, as I said, it's been I've really enjoyed the conversation today, and hopefully we can more people can start having these kind of conversations and whatnot. I continue to wish you luck in everything that you do with. I guess are you currently working as a teacher or professor or something like that?
I work in the public school, the Indiana Area School District.
Okay.
I run a program for 8 to 15-year-old girls to encourage them that they can be into the science, technology, engineering, art, and math areas, which is where 80% of the jobs will be in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And then I lead the Indiana County NAACP.
Okay.
So that's what I do every day. It keeps you busy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I get to meet a lot of people. I influence a lot of people. I'm frequently told by the students that I don't know the impact I have on people because sometimes I just don't know.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You don't always know what effect.
And I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. I hope it made some sense.
Yeah.
But there is hope. There is hope. Mm-hmm. And for me, the hope comes from we the people.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't stand up and if we don't speak out, then there's no hope.
Right.
And as long as I, as a teacher, professor, administrator, keep doing what I do and knowing that it does know a difference. It's almost like raising kids. You say something to your kids, you don't know they recognize it until they're grown sometimes, and you see them doing the same thing.
Right.
So that's when you know it's happening. So thank you so very much, and wish you the best. And let me know how this comes out.
All right, we'll do. So.
All right, and if you write something, let me know.
All right, I'll let you know for sure. But as I said, it was definitely a pleasure to have you on, and maybe we can have you on again sometime. So.
Okay, that would be fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is Abraham Klein here today with Dr. Carolyn Princess, getting to know a little bit about her, getting to sort of have some conversations about different racial issues and things like that. We hope if you like this, please like, share, subscribe, follow us on all the platforms, and Yinzer, have a great day.